Oh, hey. So I'm doing some kind of scientific research into physics because I saw something that I've never seen. I didn't think I could ever see. I think it's starting to make sense though, because okay, so Einstein had his theory of general relativity, his theory of special relativity, and so if you start traveling close to the speed of light, time seems to slow down for you, whereas time continues for everyone else. And if you think about things like black holes just suck everything into them. I mean, it's that suction. I bring up suction because Einstein, I learned, had a third form of relativity, his theory of Sucky relativity, which has never yet been proven because there has never been anybody sucky enough to kind of show that it can exist. And what we saw in the Vikings game was Laquon 316 finally proved it because it looked like in a pass he caught in the first half that he was actually running at like normal speed for an average wide receiver, which I didn't think was possible. Normally he runs like about as fast as like Richard Simmons dragging a trailer full of Playgirl magazines. So what explains it? And it finally realized that Einstein's theory of Sucky relativity has been proven. What happened is there's this thing called the Sucky differential, where the suckiness of the player has to be a certain order of magnitude higher than the suckiness of the players around him. And you're playing the Lions defense, they're pretty sucky themselves, but Laquon had ascended to such a level of suckiness over the past 3 years he's been playing that he was warping space-time and sucking things in and making it appear that he was moving much faster than he normally would, and the defenders were moving slower. So one thing I don't understand about Laquon 316 after he proved Einstein's theory of Sucky relativity is why didn't he throw his helmet? Because that's what you do when you make a good play, I thought. You throw your helmet in disgust, get a penalty, and cause your team to lose. But anyway, the Vikings beat the Lions.
Well, Lottie frickin' da!
Once again, I did not watch the game live. Now this time it wasn't my ex-wife's fault. I decided to rake leaves instead during the game because I thought that would be more exciting. And after watching the game, it was more exciting. Although I had to go out and buy a new rake because my ex-wife took my original rake in the divorce, along with my will to live. Nobody really thought they'd lose this one, especially since they were going up against the comic book guy from The Simpsons.
You cannot marry a woman without gills. You're from two different worlds. Oh, I've wasted my life.
Diggs was out, Thielen was banged up and pretty ineffective, so the offense was predictably awful. Cousins continued to make some really bad decisions. Luckily, no flubber hands this week. Although I think he got some flubber on the ball when he threw it to Cook. And of course, like no instincts, like where he could have run for an easy first down on third down and just didn't.
He should have run the football. Right here. That's a first down.
But seriously, what is with dangerously throwing the ball backwards at the end of games when you're leading? What is up with that? Stop it! The Eagles game, the Jets game, and now this game. Stop doing that! I mean, everything was bad about that play. The toss wasn't very good. It was behind Cook. Cook should have caught it still, but he dropped it. And you could see that the play was going to get blown up. That play was going nowhere. If you're going to run it, just run it, okay? If you're going to run for nothing, run for nothing. You don't have to do a toss backwards. It's going to lose 5 yards. I mean, even when they win, they're always on the verge of catastrophe. There was one sign of better play calling, though. There was early in the game, I think it was 4th and 2, 4th and 3. The Vikings decided to throw to essentially a complete bum. Don Beebe's son. I know his first name, but I'm going to pretend I don't. But now note I said complete bum, which means he's still better than suck time continuum warper Laquon 316, who they threw to last week on 4th down and didn't get it, and that ended up costing him the game. This time they throw to Beebe, who for some reason doesn't need 3 years to learn how to run a route. He can run a route already and get himself open and catch the ball. And that led to a touchdown in that drive. Gee, amazing what happens when you don't throw to guys who completely suck! The run game was horrible, aside from a 70-yard run from Cook, which was great. It's great to have those explosive plays, but other than that, they couldn't do anything, although that didn't stop Mike Zimmer from getting all excited about it.
Well, Tom, Mike Zimmer thrilled with the success of this rush game.
So, Sendeo and Barr were out, so the defense is guaranteed to play better. Seriously, can Sendeo just never come back? I mean, why does he need to come back? He sucks. We're better without him. Keep him out. Rhodes was back, which really has no effect because, you know, basically he stubs his toe, you know, 5 minutes into the game and isn't really out there much.
Oh, my arm. It's broken.
And even when he's out there, he's not really effective. I love the play in the first half where he has absolutely no clue where the ball is, which narrows it down to every play that he's out there. But it was incomplete through no fault of him, and he gets congratulated on the sideline for doing nothing. And I also like that play where he grabbed Marvin Jones by the schnutz. That's like I think a Me Too moment in the making. I think 30 years from now, if Xavier Rhodes is ever like up for Supreme Court Justice, Marvin Jones is going to show up. Although wait a minute, this actually happened, so. And a lot of talk is going to be about how good the Vikings defense played, but let's not forget how horrible the competition was. I mean, the Lions got rid of Golden Tate, the only guy that the Vikings really had trouble covering on that team. And let's not forget that while the Vikings kept the Lions out of the end zone, the Vikings defense could not get off the field in the first half. There was a 14-play and a 10-play drive in the first half, but the big number from the game was 10. That was the number of sacks that the Vikings defense got. Diamond Danielle Hunter got 3.5. Stephen Weberly had a good game, nice bull rush. Tom Johnson got in the act, and then Griffin had one where like the defense kept the play alive for like 50 seconds so Griffin could get a sack and feel better and not have to threaten to shoot up another hotel. No missed extra points! Now for some reason Bailey, he decided to kick them all from the right hash, like unlike last week where he was like alternating, and he managed to make them all. Of course he came very close to missing one left and one right. Then he had a field goal also at one point. It was longer than the extra points, and the field goal was more like in the middle of the field, and he kicked the field goal right down the frickin' middle. So why don't you just line it up in the middle all the time, you stupid idiot? Just kick from the middle and kick it straight, dummy! Anyway, our awards for this week, the Kirk Cousins impression of the week goes to Matthew Stafford, where he did that like lateral in the fourth quarter that made no sense, like to a guy behind you who would just have gotten tackled behind you, and then the guy dropped it because he had like flubber on his hands, and probably from Kirk Cousins still, and Danielle Hunter got the touchdown. So the Tavares Jackson Award for not being good enough to get a garbage touchdown, that also goes to Matthew Stafford, who late in the game just couldn't get them in the end zone. The Vikings were kind of going into their Moab, the mother of all prevents, but Stafford still couldn't get across the goal line. The best job auditioning for the Vikings kicking job, that goes to I think it was actually the Lions punter who like fell down on the kickoff. The opening kickoff, that was nice to see, and I think Rick Spielman's already got him on speed dial. The stupidest thing I've ever heard that does not involve saying something non-critical about Laquon Treadwell.
It's been one of the all-time greats.
That was a bit of an overstatement. The smart coaching move I didn't think Mike Zimmer would make. That was where they had Vikings got to kick off from midfield, and rather than just bash it through the uprights, Zimmer had them kick it up high and land inside the 5, and then it was only returned to like the 21, and there was a penalty, so the Lions started at the 12 instead of the 25. So hey, good coaching decision, Mike. Maybe you're improving. The out-of-context video clip that would be used by Skip Bayless if it was Troy Aikman in the video clip instead of Chris Spielman. The Sympathetic Kid of the week. This was at the end of the game where they showed this little kid in all this Detroit Lions gear, and he looked so sad, and I just thought back to my childhood, you know, because being a Lions fan and a Vikings fan it's the same thing in a lot of ways, because you know your team will never get to the Super Bowl. And so when I looked at that kid, I saw me. All those sad Sundays I had when I was a kid, because I didn't know any better. I thought, oh, the Vikings, they'll go out and beat Joe Gibbs and the Redskins, or they'll go out and beat Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin of the Dallas Cowboys. I didn't know the Vikings weren't as good. I thought they had a chance. They'll beat Joe Montana in the playoffs. Darren Nelson won't drop a pass at the goal line in the NFC Championship game to lose it. I'm just picturing this kid coming to the game. Hey, Dad, we're going to win, right? We're as good as the Vikings, right? The comic book guy from The Simpsons will coach us to victory, right? And the dad's like, who cares? Your mom took all my money. What's the difference? Someday the kid will realize, you know, they're the Lions. They're just going to disappoint you. Until then, son, Godspeed. I hope your mom and dad can reconcile and bring that family together again. The way PJ Fleck's current wife kind of came and married him for his short stature and bald head and not for his money. And then there's the guy I should probably apologize to. That's Kyle Rudolph, who I put on my most overrated Vikings, near the top of my most overrated Vikings list. And he's played well this year, you know. He's caught pretty much everything that's thrown his way. He's made some actual challenging catches, particularly today. He made a tough catch. He recovered what was almost a fumble at the goal line by Latavius Murray. It turned out he had crossed the plane earlier, but that was a good play. He made a tackle on Cousins' horrible interception, and for some reason, Rudolph didn't throw his helmet after he made a tackle after a turnover. So I kind of ding him for that, because that's what you're supposed to do, obviously, right, Laquon? And of course, he recovered the onside kick at the end, which didn't really matter, because if we didn't recover that, we're still going to win. But still, it's a good play he made. So he's coming off the overrated Vikings list. Good for you, Kyle. What do we take away from this game? Nothing. This game meant nothing. Nothing. Zero. Nothing. The Saints game meant something. You win that, it means something. That's the game you needed to win to prove you were something that you're not. You can't be like PJ Fleck and only beat the teams you're supposed to beat, you know? Sorry, I misspoke. You can't be like PJ Fleck and get blown out by the teams you're supposed to beat. I'm sorry, I misspoke again. You can't be like PJ Fleck and get blown out by the teams you're supposed to beat and then make up a bunch of phony excuses why you got blown out by the teams you're supposed to beat. I'm sorry, I misspoke again. Fire PJ Fleck. I'm sorry, I misspoke again. Fire PJ Fleck, and then when he leaves the state, buy his house from him, and then
burn the house down and piss on the ashes.
It was below average. Everything was below average.
Cousins and a stupid interceptions, a stupid tossback that got fumbled by Cook, and you can't count on Matthew Stafford bailing you out every week. The punt that was 2 inches from being blocked. And so this is just a matter of a really crap team we beat, and it means nothing. 4 weeks ago, I said the Vikings would probably go 3-1 during this 4-game stretch they've just completed and end up 5-3-1 going into the bye, which is where they're at. I'm like the most negative person in the world. So if I say you're going to win 3 of the next 4, that must mean you're playing some crap teams. What was it? The Cardinals, the Jets, and whoever they played this week, I've forgotten already. The Lions.
Well, Lottie frickin' da!
That's who you beat. Well, you're supposed to beat them. That's like the non-conference schedule of the Gophers without the short, bald, annoying, stupid, idiot coach, PJ Fleck, you know? Now you don't have any more gimmies for like 4 weeks, you know? You got the Bears, Packers, Patriots, Seahawks. You got to win the next 2. Even though they're not gimmies. The Bears, that's going to be a tough one. At Chicago Sunday night now, probably not going to win that. You got to beat the Packers. Against Aaron Rodgers, that's no gimme. He's going to come ticked off. Don't play bar that game. But they're probably going to go 1-1 in the next 2 games, and that's just not good enough. You're supposed to win one of these 2. A really good team wins both. For that Patriots game, I might bring PJ Fleck in as like the honorary coach, because that way, like, when Brady is like, I mean, you're going to lose by 80, so that way, you know, just for fun, and that way when, like, Brady sucks the air out of the balls to deflate them, you can take that air that he sucked out and just inject it straight up PJ Fleck's rear end at, like, the speed of light. So I'm kind of angry this week. What's new? But this girl I work with, Naf Naf, call her Naf Naf because she loves to eat at this place called Naf Naf. It's like Middle Eastern, and they have things like hummus and other stuff that has like the consistency of old glue, and it has the taste of old glue. It's just like disgusting and expensive. And right next door is Panda Express, and I like to eat there, and she makes fun of it because she doesn't like flavor. But she came into me on Monday and she's like, "Oh, I bet you're going to be happier in your video this week." That's exactly how she moves when she talks. And I was like, "No, I'm not. They beat the Lions. Who cares? It means nothing." And that's kind of my point. They could have beat the Rams if Xavier Rhodes doesn't kick a penalty flag, or if their defense even plays average. They should have beat the Saints if they don't just collapse when Thielen fumbles. They should have won at least one of those 2 games, and they didn't. They didn't win the games that meant something. And that's the definition of a team that is not that great. That's just what they are. They're probably 8-7-1. Maybe 9-6-1. And that might be enough to win the division, but they're just not that good. But maybe I'm too negative. Maybe things are better than I think.